Hey guys, welcome in San Francisco. We're here in front of Chinatown. Now, Chinatown is of course one of the best things to visit when you're in a city. Why? Because there's a lot of stuff going on and it's always interesting people, interesting buildings. Now today's going to be very special because this will be the first day I will be driving this one to its limits, I hope. Now what is this camera? It's the new A7RII from Sony, and according to many it's the best camera in the world. Well, I have to be honest, at the moment I'm already very impressed. It's a nice heavy camera, much better than the A7R, which in my opinion was a little bit too small. And it did a lot of stuff. You now have image stabilization inside 5-axis. They pumped the ISO up to above 100,000, which is awesome of course. You can do stuff that you could normally never do. No anti-aliasing filter and the fastest autofocus on the planet, according to Sony. So let's see what this baby can do, and for street photography this should be the camera of your dreams. So let's see if this is really the best camera in the world at the moment. Now one of the things I already like about this camera is something I begged Sony for, and that's in a lot of other cameras, but Sony was still missing it. I love to shoot auto ISO. I like to shoot my aperture, I like to shoot my shutter speed, and at that time I just want my camera to figure out the ISO. Now with the old cameras, with the older Sonys, what you actually had to do is shoot manual, set your shutter speed, set your aperture. And that's about it. Now with this camera they finally added your minimum shutter speed, or as some people would like to say, what's really needed in this camera. I can now actually set up, I don't want my shutter speed to go below 1/500, 1/250 or whatever, and the camera will never go below that setting, so it will go up but not lower. Again, with the older camera they didn't have that option. So when you set 250, it would always shoot on 250 and adjust the ISO. So if you were shooting in very bright sunlight, you will actually get an overexposed image. So they finally solved this. Minimum shutter speed, and you can set it in many different options. So that's a really cool feature I love for street photography. And indeed, the autofocus is blazingly fast. Now, I love the contrast between the old rugged and a nice building in the back. It's one of the things I love in areas like this. You have this really raw stuff and then the nice buildings in the back. You know, sometimes it's very wise to not go over the zebra. I hope you guys also call it zebra, the crossing. Because if you stay, you can find some really interesting characters to shoot, especially when they come past you or go that way. And because they're already passing the road, they won't see you shooting them because they're occupied with other stuff. The minimum shutter speed for your auto ISO is really cool. The only thing you have to think about is change your aperture. Now this was actually one of the things that I really missed when I changed from Canon to Sony, because Canon already had that feature. Another thing that's really nice is one of the custom buttons I actually programmed to change the shutter speed. So just press the custom 2 button and I can change the shutter speed for my auto ISO. So you don't have to delve into the menus, you can do it really fast. One of the other things they changed is the frames per second. You now have 5 frames a second. Now, when you have a speed monster like the 1DX or the Nikons who do 12 or 14 frames a second, it doesn't sound like a lot. But remember, this is a whopping 42 megapixels. And then shooting on 5 frames a second in RAW mode, that's pretty fast. And for street photography, I love to have that option to go for 5 frames a second. So that's also really cool. And again, the focus is really fast. This is something that I also missed when I switched from the Canon 5D Mark III to the Sonys. They were always a little bit lagging behind, and this one is incredibly fast. Now at the moment I'm actually using a converter to use A-mount glass. Now I'm using contrast detection. Sony actually has 399 points face detection, but that doesn't work with this lens. Well, it does with this lens if you use the converter that doesn't have the SLT mirror. So I'm going to test that as soon as we're back in the Netherlands and we get one of those converters. But already with the contrast detection, it's way faster than the A7R. So again, it's gonna look very positive for this review because this is a really cool camera. Let's see if we can shoot some more. Now, as you use from Sony, they have this amazing dynamic range. So if you have something that's in the shadow and you have these bright clouds, no problem at all. You just use your RAW converter of choice and you can get all that detail back. Now, another thing they improved is the viewfinder. It has an amazing coverage. When you look through it, it's like looking through a window to the world. That sounds like a commercial, right? Well, let's put it this way. It's pretty awesome. It's a way better viewfinder again. And they now use a size coating, so you get this really nice contrasty look. And again, I love EVFs, you see what you get. And with this one, they really upped the ante again. The A7R wasn't bad, of course, but this one is bigger, sharper, and it gives you a way better view of what you're doing. Now, as you know, I love analog photography. I love shooting with older lenses. And one of the things that the old Sonys already had is because you have an EVF, you have the so-called auto peaking. In other words, you can see what's in focus. Now, with this display, it gets a little bit better. You have two zoom functions. One time press, you see 100%, another time press, and you see more close-up. So getting your manual focus lenses in focus is now even easier because the display is a lot better. The old camera already had the two-time focus, but because the display is better, you can now see it better. So if you have old manual lenses, you now have even image stabilization on those old lenses, which you normally didn't have because the old A7R didn't have image stabilization. So now all your old lenses are easily focusable and you have image stabilization. Isn't that cool? I'm just getting more and more enthusiastic about this camera. Now, one of the things that you could do during walking is leave your camera on constantly. That's what I did with the Canons. But because these cameras are a little bit more power hungry, they're actually delivered with 2 batteries, so that's really cool from Sony. But because they're a little bit power hungry, I like to switch them off or put them on power save. Now, the fun thing is, the boot up time is really fast. From the moment it boots up, it's there within a second or 2. So that's pretty fast. It's still not instant on, but let me put it this way. This is off. And I'm now switching it on, and there we go, now you can shoot. So that's pretty fast, and especially for street photography, every single second you can get means you get the picture or you don't. Cool. Now, if it's necessary, you need to shoot from a lower angle and you don't want to go all the way on your knees, you still, of course, have this beautiful pop-up screen in which you can pretty good see what you do. You see all the yellow lining? I always have this on because I love to shoot manual lenses, so that's actually the peaking you see. And if you want to shoot from top, no problem at all. You just switch it over like this, especially with wide-angle lenses like the 12 to 24 from Sigma. This is a really cool feature because you can get some really unique looks without, well, Anouk already carries a lot, so if she also had to carry a ladder, that would be terrible. So the flip-up screen, something Anouk really likes. And I like it for the lower perspectives because then I don't have to sit on the floor, and to be honest, the floor isn't that clean over here. So yeah, that's another great feature. But a lot of cameras nowadays have this, and also the other A7R already had this. But I just wanted to mention it because it's a feature I actually like a lot. Now, if you've never shot with an EVF, you don't understand this, but a lot of people are a really big fan for the following reason. If you see this scene, there's a lot of contrast, right? You have the dark shadow areas, you have the lighter areas. If you shoot with a normal camera, with an OVF, an optical viewfinder, you actually have to check on your screen if the image is okay, if there's nothing blown out or if there's not too much in the dark. Now with an EVF, I can actually use my exposure compensation and exactly see in the viewfinder how the image will look at the moment I press the shutter. So in this case, I just have to underexpose it a little bit and I get all the dynamic range of the scene in. So the sky is okay and there's still enough detail in the shadow. So I actually see through the viewfinder what I'm gonna do. This is a really powerful function and this is one of the reasons I love the EVF. Hey guys, we're here in Red Rock, a beautiful, beautiful area. We're on our way to the Valley of Fire and it's our last day for our USA trip. Now, in San Francisco I started the review of this new Sony A7RII. And I started the review that a lot of people claim that this is the best camera in the world at the moment. And of course you're waiting for my conclusion, right? Is it really the best camera in the world? Well, I'm a little bit worried to say that it is, because I didn't test every camera in the world. Let me put it this way, is it a game changer? Depending on the game you play, yes. This is without any doubt a game changer. This is the camera that a lot of the competitors will look at and get very, very worried. Because, let me put it this way, I love new gear, but I'm not always very enthusiastic about new gear. This camera got me over the moon with enthusiastic feelings. It's an awesome camera. Now, what does it make so special? Well, let's talk about the technical stuff, like the really technical stuff. It has a backlit sensor, amazing, wow. Yeah, sure, reads like a brochure, right? So what does it do? Well, without being technical, if I just look at the results, it makes it way more sensitive for light. Meaning you can shoot on a higher ISO without having noise. Now, is noise a problem? No, of course not. As soon as you see noise in a picture, it means actually you did something wrong, because you should look at the picture. Is the picture awesome? Great. If you notice noise straight away, there's probably something wrong with the picture. But it's still nice to have low noise. Well, this camera does really well. The ISO goes way over 100,000. Can you use 100,000 plus? If it's the difference between having the shot or not, of course. Is it great on 100,000? Yeah, it's pretty good. It's a 42 megapixel sensor. 42 megapixels and a little bit in change. So that means if you look one-on-one on your screen and you see noise, that doesn't mean that if you print you will see the noise. Let me put it this way. Above 6400 I have no problem using this camera. 16,000 looks pretty good. It's just awesome with low noise. Now the other stuff. The EVF greatly improved. When you look through it, it's like looking through a window. It's very bright, it's very cool. Of course you have, what you see is what you get. So a really great feature. You look through the viewfinder, you just adjust your settings, and when you press the shutter, that's what you get. Handling of the camera. Love the new body. Very tight, very nice. It's still, for my feeling, could be a little bit bigger like the Alpha 99, but this is very, very nice. If I hold the A7R now, I think it's a little bit tiny. I didn't use E-mount lenses. What I did do during Photoshop World is I used the other converter. There are two converters. The one that I have on now, that has actually an autofocus motor, and it has an SLT mirror. The problem is it only does contrast detection, so I don't use the new autofocus system, but still it's very, very fast, faster than the A7R. If you use the other converter, it doesn't have an SLT mirror and it doesn't have a focus motor, but what it does do, it enables you to use face detection focus. Now in the past, face detection focus was always less than contrast focus. With this camera, I kid you not, if I was sitting on a chair, I would have fallen off. It's blazingly fast. You have 399 points. It covers almost all the sensor. The tracking it's sick. Very simple. It's really awesome. If you're a sports shooter, this camera will keep up. It's very, very cool. So it's very fast. So what more? I like the body. It's very fast. It finally has, and I use this a lot, auto ISO with a minimum shutter speed. So that's cool. You can use your old manual focus lenses on this, and now comes the kicker. It has 5 axes of image stabilization for most lenses. On the old lenses, so let's say if an M42 lens or a Leica R lens, you can still use image stabilization. So that's pretty cool. The other thing that I really like about the camera is just its speed. 5 frames a second, 42 plus megapixels. Well, I don't even know where to start, guys. This is a really, really great camera. A few years ago, when I switched from Canon to Sony, and I still love Canon, don't get me wrong, I said if Sony keeps up this way, in 10 years they will be the new #1. It's only 2.5 years ago and they have a camera like this. I don't know what to say anymore. I think Nikon, Canon, they should really be worried because these kind of cameras, they have cutting edge technology. Sony is constantly building on that technology. It's just an awesome camera. So, is it the best camera in the world? I didn't test any camera in the world. Let me put it this way. From the cameras that I tested, this is without a doubt the best camera I ever hold in my hand. Am I happy with it? Certainly. Do I miss certain stuff? Yeah, well, normally I have a list about 10 things that I miss in a camera. This camera, what would I like to see? Well, yeah, very difficult. Well, let me put it this way. I like GPS. I like to see where I am. On the other hand, I have something on my iPhone called Rambler, which is always tracking, so I can use the GPS. And let's nitpick. It has Wi-Fi. I would love to shoot Wi-Fi tethered to the computer. But that's all extra stuff. Furthermore, I don't miss anything in this camera. It's fast. It's blazingly fast. It has great image quality. It has backlit sensor, so great high ISO performance. Dynamic range, as we're used from Sony, very, very good. So, yeah, my conclusion, if you're looking for a new camera, A7R II, without a doubt, maybe the best camera in the world. Oh, one thing, if you're still shooting Canon, and you think like, man, if I switch to Sony, I have to switch all my lenses. During Photoshop World, somebody came up to me. He used to have a 5D Mark III. He bought a Sony A7R II. He used a Metabones adapter and Canon lenses. And he told me that the focusing was actually just as responsive as the 5D Mark III. According to some tests online, the focusing is slightly faster on the Sony than on Canon. Does this make Canon the third-party manufacturer for lenses for Sony? I don't know, let's see what the future brings. But for now, highly recommended. Sony A7R, get one while they're still hot.